Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The master puppeteer and evil queen of spin, Liz Lloyd, has said that people need to move on from the trans debate. And that's despite Nicola Sturgeon reigniting the row whenever she can get the opportunity. She likes to stand next to gay and lesbian people and people who are trans and say, look at me, I'm brilliant, I'm genius, I'm fantastic, I'm so inclusive. Not realising that she's alienating everybody in Scotland every time she opens her big fat ignorant gob. Liz Lloyd has got it right. They do need to move on from it, as indeed need to move away from it. The trans lobby are not a genuine lobby. They are mentally ill people. Very, very few people are actually trans. And that, of course, is why they want to remove any kind of medical diagnosis from this, should we say, mental condition. Because if they were fully mentally diagnosed by specialists, they'd find out that they weren't trans at all, they were, and insert other condition. They don't want that, which is why they want that medical thing taken away. They don't want to be proved out for being liars. But that's a different story for a different video. Liz Lloyd is only concerned with pushing the SNP Nat message. So we'll take a look at this, see what she's saying, and how it will be helpful, I suppose, for the SNP. Yeah, coming on. Let's have a look. Now, it must be fair and say straight away that this message, this article came out sort of 20 past one yesterday afternoon, prior, of course, to Rishi Sunak announcing to the world that we're going to have an election. It's going to be a new world. We're all going to feel much better now that he's called that. But I think, in principle, it still stands. They've got to move away from anything that is digressive, shall we say. If you have an audience and then you say, haha, the other half of this audience are rubbish, aren't they? You immediately halve your audience. It doesn't matter what your principle is. If you make a stand on one point, you alienate your audience. And that's assuming the audience is split 50-50. On the trans debate, it's 99-1. And if you're picking on the side of the one, that's a lot of people you're pissing off. And that's what's happened. So Liz Lloyd urges Scots to move on from the trans debate despite Nicola Sturgeon reigniting the row. The former chief advisor to the Scottish Council, the Scottish government, Freudian slip there, wasn't it? Anyway, the Scottish government claimed that the country wanted to move on from the reign of the former First Minister and insisted her controversial comments this week did not hinder John Swinney. No, because it can't hinder John Swinney. John Swinney's so inalienably connected with the old regime that whatever happened, he's already linked to it. And in terms of hindering it, he's doing such a grand job himself. He keeps highlighting all the problems with his own party. A former key Nicola Sturgeon advisor has claimed that Scots should move on from the trans debate after the former First Minister reignited the row surrounding the topic earlier this week. Liz Lloyd also insisted that her ex-boss was not hindering John Swinney through her numerous public comments. Nicola Sturgeon is out there trying to be, look at me, I'm nice, look at me, I'm wonderful, I'm virtuous, look at me, I'm doing all the nice things now, look at me, I won't be prosecuted for anything because I'm innocent, deal done. We all know, no is a strong word, it is, I have to be careful on how I say this, so bear with me. It has been strongly rumoured, let me put it this way, that actually there was an arrest warrant for Nicola Sturgeon, and I've heard this from several sources, but that the arrest warrant was rescinded at the last moment, allegedly by Dorothy Bain. And the reason being is that they're trying to rehabilitate Nicola Sturgeon by showing her constantly out there, dealing with people, smiling, that Richter smile of the dead. And trying to make her almost, but not quite human. It's uncanny valley, isn't it? So that when Swinney crashes and burns, Sturgeon can come back. That's the plan. Ain't gonna wash though, is it? She may not even have a party to come back to. That's how dangerous it is. Anyway, speaking to BBC Radio Scotland, ahead of Mr. Swinney laying out his priorities for government, which we covered in a short video last night, and we're going like, oh yeah, we have these 4 things, and all of a sudden it was like, no, rip them up, no, survival. We've got an election, survival. They're not. They are screwed, and royally screwed, and they know it. Anyway, she was quizzed on the comments from Miss Sturgeon She was quizzed on the comments from Miss Sturgeon, not quizzed by Miss Sturgeon, where she also criticised career politicians coming up through the SNP, just like she did. With Miss Lloyd insisted that it was a bit rich to suggest this about anyone who joined the SNP during her rise, as the party was not winning in Scotland. On the trans debate, she dismissed out of hand that the former First Minister had hindered Mr Swinney after claiming she'd quit due to the row surrounding gender reforms, which of course no one in their right mind believes. We all know it was Operation Branchform and the pending arrests. She undoubtedly knew they were coming. Anyway, the way you... sorry, okay, move on. Said her pushing the Gender Reform Recognition Act ended it with being blocked by the Scotland Secretary Alistair Jack, but not before she labelled some of the opposition to it misogynistic. How can you be misogynistic against men? That's weird, isn't it? Anyway, and likened them to the right wing. Nothing wrong with the right wing, darling. It's the left wing that have killed more people in history than anyone else. She also failed to explain whether trans double R of women Isla Bryson was a man or a woman. Clearly he's a man. He's in a man's prison. Duh. Also, testicles. Tiny, tiny, tiny little nub of a penis. We've seen it. Little button mushroom. He's like Mario World, isn't he? Boop. And that's him. Done. Miss Lloyd added, we're trying to move forward in Scottish politics, and that's why I'm talking about moving forward. Because she said that one of those reasons she quit was because she felt she couldn't be part of a solution because of the toxicity around her. Well, she creates all the problems. It's only fair. So that's where John Swinney is able to move the debate forward. He was so closely aligned. He's not new. He's old guard. It's the same. It's like Soviet Russia, isn't it? Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And it was the same clone of a faceless old man. Old man after old man after old man. And it was the same politics. They differed only in whether they were harsh or extremely harsh. The Politburo changed nothing. It basically was only Chernobyl that really ended the Soviet Union. But what do you do? Anyway, in terms of the First Minister's announcement, he has warned about the tough financial situation facing the Scottish Government. This is Swinney. And like his main aim would be to eradicate child poverty. Well, how can you possibly eradicate child poverty when every policy you have is going to make things worse? Housing, construction, those two alone will increase child poverty massively. You put minimum charge on alcohol, increases child poverty. We're seeing in the previous video about education reforms, it's going to increase child poverty. Everything you do is making child poverty worse, although you sit there and go, nah, we want to end it. You might want to. Have you considered actually doing something towards that end? Or is it just words, John? I think we know. I'm coming up. If there's any toxicity around Nicola Sturgeon, it is also around Liz Lloyd. Those two were like hand in glove. It was Liz Lloyd advising Sturgeon on everything. The direction Sturgeon took was often at Liz Lloyd's behest. And so for Sturgeon to become this figure of toxic hate that was previously there, that was previously seen as destroying everything, then you can look at Liz Lloyd. And if that's the case, then Liz Lloyd really shouldn't have an opinion. And she doesn't really. I don't listen to her. But she is right that they need to move on from gender. But it's basically to just abandon it and move on and go back to the way it was. People say, oh, you can't go back to the way it was because the world's changed. No, the world hasn't changed. Decency hasn't changed. Realism hasn't changed. The science hasn't changed. And the protection of children from grown men who want to expose themselves in public places, that also definitely hasn't changed. If Sturgeon is attempting to make a return, we've got to make sure that that doesn't happen. And she must be reminded at every available opportunity what an evil, nasty, toxic, divisive, horrible person she is, was, and shall ever remain. Thanks very much for listening. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.